Hey there, I'm Jack Trash.
And I'm Chris McLernon.
And this is Plus One. And this is going to be a little bit different than the other Plus Ones that we've done. We're going to try and do this once a month
Yep.
because Chris and I, we get to interact with musicians all the time. Chris being a musician, but we get to interact with them all the time. And we have a set of questions that we ask everybody. And
Right.
we thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we did one episode of everybody kind of answering the same question because they're never the same answer.
No, sure not.
No. So one of the questions that we ask is, what was your first paid gig? And we leave it right there. So it's up to the interpretation of who's getting asked their first paid gig. As you will see, it's not always something in the music field.
No,
which is
no.
great, which is great. It's awesome. So before we get to our rock stars answering what their first paid gig is, what was your first paid gig?
I'm almost positive it was a winter party in someone's basement in McLernon, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Because I think my first gigs were not paid. My first gigs were in high school, and I think we just did them to do them.
Mm-hmm.
So this one was in a basement, and oh god, I don't know how we got. I probably got the old Van Halen way. We took donations for the beer downstairs.
Right.
It's because we had like one or two kegs. And in Wisconsin, the drinking age at that point was 18. So nobody blinked an eye at that shit.
Right.
So we had people coming down, but we had a root beer keg just in case to whip out. Just no, we're not serving beer. We have root beer here. You can taste it. So we had that. But somehow my brother was singing for the band we had put together, and he had gone out with his girlfriend to like pick something up or something, and they were late back to the gig. And like I said, it was winter time, so they hit black ice on the road coming back and spun around and almost nailed into a phone pole. Which in Wisconsin, winter is somewhere between August and May.
Yeah.
And it's usually pretty severe. And this is one of them. So I had to take over on vocals, and I knew like none of the songs at all.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I knew how Bad Boy Boogie went by AC/DC, but I didn't know all the words. And this is before, phones are, I'll just look it up. No,
right.
You had to know it.
Oh.
So finally they show up, and nobody's hurt, nobody's whatever. And we ripped through the rest of the gig. But yeah, I think we came home with about $50 total. So $10 a piece ish.
Right.
But yeah, it was one of those moments where you just go, I hope it gets better than this.
Yeah.
Because we put a lot of work into it. And of course, you're dragging shit downstairs, and now you can drag it back upstairs. And I think the host's mother came home at some point. What are you guys doing down there? It's awfully loud. Don't play past 10:30 like we told you. That kind of stuff.
Right.
What's the opposite of glamorous?
Right.
And I think that's what it was. But like first, because there's different tiers of paid gigs too. There's, I think, the first gig you get paid where you can't believe you're getting paid like that.
Yeah.
Which is great. And then there's the one where you think you're getting paid and the guy rips you off.
Ooh, yeah. And I would say that one happens more than the first one.
Yeah. My first experience with that was at Brown Deer High School in Brown Deer, Wisconsin. The guy just like, nope, I'm not paying you. And it was and this was like a vice principal or something.
What?
So yeah. He totally just hosed the band. And it was pretty nice payday too, because high schools are good paydays. They have an entertainment budget,
right?
In those days. And so that we were not pleased with that.
I bet not. Do you remember the name of that first band that played in the basement? Did you have a name?
Yes, it was my brother's band, and it was Malice. Well before the other one. Yeah, I mean they did local high school. What do you call it? Talent shows and stuff. And my brother brought like my buddies, or his buddies, a motorcycle out on stage where they did Breaking the Law. I mean, they were totally going for it. My brother did splits. They had a mini tramp, so he'd do a split and come flying over the drum riser or whatever. My brother was one of those guys that he had the show down, he had the confidence down, just not really that much of a singer.
Right.
But he knew it. He's like, I know what I can and can't do.
Right. So, exactly.
He'd come out with such glorious little ditties like, we'll be back in a minute to rip your face off. I'm like, is this really something you should say at the high school talent show, Sean? It was you to work for him, so you know.
There you go. There you go. All right. So there you go. There's Chris's first paid gig. So let's see what Gonzo from Armored Saints first paid gig is in a couple more, and then we'll be back.
You got it.
Gonzo Sandoval, Armored Saint.
The paying gig. Wow. Well, I mean, it wasn't a lot, but I think we played Billy Barty's. Let's see. No, yeah, he had a roller rink. The little guy.
I remember.
In Orange County in Fullerton.
Yes.
Right. So I think we actually made some money there.
Nice.
Yeah. Very little, but you know, back then, back then we were just playing to get our name out and to build the band and to, you know, play for our fans and just really have a good time.
Yeah. Jeff Skunk Baxter, the Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan.
My first paying gig. Okay, I was 12 years old. I grew up in Mexico City, and I was playing in a band called the Tarantulas, surf band. And we'd actually played on a radio station, and somebody had cut a live disc, because in those days you could actually cut a disc, and they started playing the song, and we were sort of a minor success in Mexico City, so we started playing parties and a couple of clubs, and even though there was, you know, an age limit in Mexico, there was no age limit. So, yeah, my first paying gig was when I was 12 years old.
Wow, that's so cool. Lorraine Lewis, Femme Fatale, Vixen.
My first paying gig was Winchell's Donut Shop. Oh. Is that what you mean?
That's good, but what was your first paying musical gig?
Oh, okay. Let's see,
I really want a donut.
Yeah, I actually, that was my first job. So I worked at Winchell's Donut Shop for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I thought I'd throw that in. Okay, my first paid gig. Well, for Femme Fatale, we hit the scene and got picked up right away for a record deal after 10 shows on the Sunset Strip. But I was in a lot of bands in my history leading up to Femme Fatale. So I would say with Femme, I would say our first paid gig was on the road with Cheap Trick.
See, that's an interesting, because we're getting these answers from people, and I don't think people realize it, that the bands don't really get paid until they've been out there for a while and actually have a record deal and are out on the road. You don't get paid when you're in the clubs.
No, you don't get. That's cutting your teeth. That's paying your dues. Yeah, you don't get paid for paying your dues. No.
John Connolly, Seven Dust.
First paying gig. Wow, it was a keg party for sure. We didn't have a singer because we were, you know, just trying to figure it out. You know, literally a garage band. We played a keg party. I think about 40 people really showed up, which to us was a huge success.
Right.
But we didn't have a singer, so I had to sing all the Motley Crue songs. I think I had to sing the AC/DC songs, and I hated it. 'Cause I just didn't, you know, Vince Neil was not, I don't do Vince Neil real well, so, you know, for me to fake that was not cool. But it was a paid gig. We actually got paid to do it. I think we got paid like $50 or something like that, you know.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Those are fun answers. I love hearing the first paid gigs for everybody. It's also different, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I think part of that is also your exposure to where you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're in Los Angeles, you're gonna have things like Gonzo's story,
right?
And if you're in New York, you're gonna have a completely different story.
Totally. If you like what you're seeing here, give us a like.
Yes.
Please give us like and comment. The other thing that I was thinking of is we've got this set of questions that we've asked a lot of people.
Right.
But at some point, we're going to run out. So if you have a question that you would like us to ask them, comment on it. Give us what it is. And more than likely, we'll use it.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. So when bands get put together to have that first paid gig, it's very rare that even the Van Halen brothers had to go out and get Michael Anthony and get David Lee Roth. It's not a full unit. So there's a couple ways of doing that. And one is You have to audition people, which unfortunately you had to do with cold sweat at probably the worst time anybody's ever had to. Oh, we got to get a singer.
Yeah, because we lost him on the day we were signing our deal.
Right. Exactly.
We need one now. Yeah, we saw everybody.
So
Everybody.
what was the audition process like for especially getting a singer? I mean, you got to get that position.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. First of all, you either find them or they find you through an ad or whatever, or you're just you always check your inner circle.
Right.
Your kind of interior database of who you have.
Right.
And so from there, with Cold Sweat, we actually had Mark went to what was it? Z-Rock, and got us on the air there. Like, hey, we're looking for a singer, and boy, did we get some interesting applicants. Let me tell you. Wow. Hey, so you would give them at least 2 or 3 songs, and then you go, is there one you'd like to do? Maybe do a cover or do a one that we gave you that was on the list, and you didn't have to pick it or whatever.
Right.
So we'd go through that, and when you start out, you're like, okay, this is going really well because at least we're getting somewhere. Someone's coming in, and we didn't have a shortage of that, but the shortage was of people who were any good.
Right.
Or people who took it seriously. And of course, management would have their favorites and we had ours. But the worst part about it was, as it went on, we got so jaded. We'd seen everybody in town, everybody from out of town. I mean, we would pick up guys from San Francisco and San Diego and Vegas, and just whoever heard about it, let's get it over here. We had some guys who were in bands, like just had one deal and lost it or whatever. You had some who were in bands, didn't want to let the band know that they were auditioning for us.
Yeah, which was kind of what your singer did.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, okay. But we also, by the time Roy Cathy came in, we were so jaded, we didn't know how good he was.
Right.
We were just like, whatever. Yeah, he sounds okay. He's loud. He's hitting all the pitches. Sure. And like I said, it wasn't because we had someone to directly compare him to. We're like, oh my God, he's so much better, so much worse than the other guy. No, not at all. It was just, we'd had it. And Kevin Beamish was the one, he was our producer. He's the one who talked sense into us and said, this guy's great. Are you kidding me? Listen to that. And we just kind of went, yeah, you know what? Kev may have a point here. So Kev finally just said, look, let's make a fucking record already.
Right.
And we all went, okay. Yeah. It took someone to make us just shake us and go, dude, wise up. You got a gem right here. And he was right. We did. And did. Well, we do.
Yeah, you still do.
Yeah. But it's typically, when someone's coming in like that, I mean, you try and break the ice because it takes a lot of balls. You're going in and there's one person against 4, maybe 5, 3, 4. Right. You're the new guy. They've got their band vibe. They got their band sense of humor. They've got their band, secret language, all that stuff. So you got to come in and do that, and then get by the internal stress and kill it. And we'd have some guys who come out and the demo tape would sound all right, and they just choke within the first verse. Yeah. Like, and you're just like, at first you're like, what the fuck, really, dude? Right. And then you realize it's stress, it's nerves. Totally. So we were able to talk a couple guys out of that. Like, hey man, it'll be cool. Don't worry. Do you need to warm up? Do you whatever? But by the time Roy showed up, we were all like, yeah, I don't care if you got if you lost an arm on the way here. Sing the fucking song.
Right.
So we got a little pissy. Right. So I apologize to any of you guys who were looking in. It wasn't us.
It's all stress. It's all right.
It was a circumstance, right? It wasn't us.
Yeah. And from the moment that, and I'll say it, you don't have to, but I'll say it. But from the moment Oni Logan decided, no, I'm not going to be in Cold Sweat.
Right.
Till the time Roy Cathy was in Cold Sweat, what was that length of time?
May through, I think, November or October.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long, and we couldn't believe it. We're like, we can't find one guy.
Right.
One.
Right.
Come on.
So had that happen now, so May 2024, through
Right.
November 2024,
Right.
with the internet and all of that stuff, how much faster do you think it would have been?
Oh, incredibly. And I have a personal example for this. One is his name's August, and he plays guitar for Dennis DeYoung.
Mm-hmm.
And he sings like a motherfucker and plays like one, and he sounds just like Tommy Shaw, right?
Yeah.
So all Dennis had to do was go on and type in Styx cover bands or tribute bands and find August, and boom, he had the gig. It was that quick.
No, same thing with Journey. They did the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I said to my son too, who's in a band. I was like, you guys don't realize how much faster you can do things, and you don't have to go to a major metropolitan center to get signed.
Right.
You know, you can be in Charleston.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And if someone's in Charleston, let's say they can take video of you on the phone and just send it to whoever. Look, check this out.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much faster. Now, it has also opened the talent pool, as it were, very, very wide. But when you make a pool, you know, that wide, it tends to get shallow.
Yes.
So I think we would have been even more frustrated with some of the numbnuts who came our way.
Sure.
Wow. We had one guy who sent in it was a 4x6. So it was, you know, basically just go to the photo store, and it was him in his tidy whities. Yeah,
No, that would be a hard no.
yeah, it was
Hard no. You may sing like a bird, but hard no.
but we got to get you a stylist, son.
Yeah. If you can't figure out how to button pants, you've got a problem.
Yeah. Not meant to just put them on.
Right. Exactly. Leg and a tag. One leg.
We had one guy that all the girls in the office loved, but he was one of those guys like who sang, and this is not a diss, but sang like Don Dokken, which is real quiet. Don is not, you know, loud. He's not Brent Smith. He's not Jeff Tate. He's not, you know, Ronnie Dio. He's not built like a speaker cabinet where it's boom, right? So he's very quiet singer. It sounds great, but he's very, you know, it gets about that loud. And that's how this guy kind of was. And I got fed up with it. He's not loud, and he keeps blaming the PA. So what we did was came up with a test. I'd go up and then sing the song after, you know, not well, but I'd sing it, you know, because I'm trying to sing and play. And that was our test. Okay, how was that guy? Well, we had my vocal set, and I would go up and I would sing. If it was blaring loud, he didn't get it.
Right.
Yeah, but this guy totally did not get the gig. Thank God. No. Then there was another guy who we thought was the guy. I mean, we're convinced he was the guy. All the auditions went well. The first one, we were like, oh, you know, hey, cool. Let's bring him back. And we didn't. Oh, he's even better. Awesome. Wendy was not sold on him. And we're like, why? We're just, why? And she's just, I think, in the example of sometimes it's easier to show someone than explain it. She said, I want to do a photo shoot. I said, okay. Why? She just, you know, got one of those, I'm the expert, just shut up and listen, boys.
Right.
And we're going, okay, sorry, Wen. And so we do this photo shoot, and she, okay, come in, boys, take a look. And so after 2 or 3 days, so we come in and take a look, and it was with Alex Solka, so it was someone we knew, because you're always better with someone you know.
Right.
And we go in, and she's got them all over a table. We all have our loops and our lighted boards and stuff. And I turned to her and I go, no. And she goes, I told you, he doesn't fit. He doesn't visually fit. And she was right. Yep. And it was like someone's took him, and he's a good looking dude. He had the look for the era. He was his voice was killer. And he was in a local band, and they were doing really well. And the band was really cool about us almost poaching him. But when Wendy said, take a look, and he does, when I said that to her, she goes, yes, right. He doesn't fit in, does he? I said, no. It looks like you literally took him, cut him out, and went pop and popped them in with the rest of us. It looked like, you know, one of those things you see at the mall where you have to stare at and things pop out, you know? Yeah. That's what it looked like. And we all saw it. We all did. Wow. So we're just going, okay, well, some people are in this business for a reason, and Wendy's one of them, and now I feel dumb.
Right. And for those who haven't been following along, Wendy's last name is Dio. So
sorry. Yes, should have mentioned that.
Yeah, she's got some cred.
Especially when it comes to singers. Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of knows what she's doing with that.
Yeah. Right.
All
Sorry.
right, so let's see. We got some more of our rock stars answering the question. What was their first paid gig?
Jeff Tate, Queensryche.
First paying gig. Wow, I think it was when I was about 17. 17, I got hired to play one song at a kind of a, I guess they call it an oyster bake out on the beach near where I grew up. And so I got this acoustic guitar that I borrowed from somebody, and I worked up a rendition of that song "Lucky Man" by ELP.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, what a lucky man he was, you know. And I practiced and practiced and practiced, and went out for the show, and there was probably 6,000 people there. It was a big event.
Wow.
One of those summer kind of, events put on by the city, that kind of thing. So I walked up there, and I had my outfit all picked out, and I was looking pimping, right? And I walk out there, and I pick up the guitar, and I hit the first chord, and I start singing that song, and I realized that I didn't know how to play guitar. I kind of forgot that was part of the whole thing, And I got through about 2 chords, and I just said, I don't feel like playing the guitar today. So I put the guitar down, and I just sang it a cappella. And they paid me like $50.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Betsy Bitch.
Oh, okay. My first paying gig was with a band called the Box Boys, and they were a ska band, believe it or not. And we played, I think it was a recreation center, and I still have the very first dollar bill that was ever handed to me framed on my kitchen wall.
Very nice. Very
And
cool.
I really had to struggle hard to not break the glass and spend it.
Rob Grad. Kick Tracy. Superfine.
First paying gig, like music
Yes.
paying gig?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to edit here too, because I had to think about it for a second.
That's all right.
Good question. First time we actually got paid. Well, it probably would have been, and we probably made some money early on, like in the pay-to-play days when they'd give you a bunch of tickets. But the first time we got paid for real, sure we got paid at the Whiskey after we were signed. But they didn't get paid too much, like we really didn't. You got paid in the clubs when we went on tour. I think they gave us next to nothing but something, that was back in the days of tour support though, so the record company would basically flip the bill, and if you brought home $3, they were happy to see it, kind of thing. But there were guarantees and there were money. But I would actually say, really the first time we ever got made money on a show would have been in pay-to-play days. I don't remember the exact show, but that was in days where the club would say, you have to buy 20 tickets from us at $5 each, so you're going to owe us $100 or whatever. Anything you sell over and above that, you guys keep the money, kind of thing.
Right.
So there were plenty of shows where we either barely sold enough or sold enough to make the money back. So technically, but as far as someone actually paying us to play, I think would probably be the Whiskey show we did after we were signed to RCA, before our first album came out.
Okay.
And we sold out that night. It was sort of our peak at that point. For a while, actually, I can't imagine the record still holds, but they sold more alcohol that night at the Whiskey than they ever had in the history of the club.
Wow.
So it was a very dubious honor of some kind, but it was, we were told that after the show.
Kurt Mayer. Salty Dog.
Oh, it had to be some of the clubs I played when I was still in high school. And of course you play the token backyard keg parties. Where I'm from, up in Northern California, in the areas up there, when they had backdoor, big backyard parties or great big live band things, they were big because it was rural up there. It's not like city. So they would have, 4 or 5 bands and a big stage that's built outside, and then the place would get out of hand, and then the cops would show up, in the helicopters and disperse everybody.
The first spotlight.
No, we used to play like a lot of like outdoor things, or play some of the biker parties, which were like a lot of fun. But man, I mean, you're 15 years old or whatever, 16, and seeing stuff like that at crazy biker parties, where there's Hell's Angels and stuff. You're just going like, what the hell? What was that? Yeah.
I love this. I'm loving everybody's first gigs. So cool. If you like what you're seeing, give us a like, give us a follow. If you don't like it, even, you can tell us that too. That's fine. Sure. If you've got a question that you would like us to ask these rock stars, we'd be happy to do that. Just give us the question in the comments.
Right. Yeah. The old, what would you, if you got it for a minute, what would you ask them? If you're stuck with them on a plane, what would you ask them?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly, that's kind of what we've done with, we've only done this with a few, having all these questions with a few people so far. Right. So we need more, because we're going to run out. So if you would help us out, we would really appreciate it. So we talked about your first gig. We talked about you auditioning to get a singer for Cold Sweat. Yep. Now I'm assuming that there have been times where you have been the auditioner.
Yes.
So so as now coming from the other direction, which actually I guess it happened before and after.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It depends on who it is. To me, again, bands tend to go with people they know. Like I remember Iron Maiden picked up Adrian Smith. We had no idea who he was, but they did. He was a buddy. Right. So he walked in and he knew he played, and okay, that's great. But if you had some guy like with the Cold Sweat stuff where you didn't know who they were, there's some guys we did know. There's another guy named Mike Towers. He was fantastic too. We got along with him great. So he passed the bro hang test, right. And that's important.
Yeah.
But it can be when you're breaking out what I call the local band audition circle, it can be a convoluted path. Here's my example. I worked at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, right? So for those of you who've seen Fast Times, I was up there on the third floor. So I've got many, many jokes if you want. But downstairs in the Licorice Pizza, which became a Sam Goody, was a girl named Jennifer Ezrin. Her father is a producer named Bob. Yes. You might have heard of some of his stuff. He did The Wall.
Yes.
So
all the Alice Cooper records.
Kiss. Oh yeah, Kiss. Right. I mean, just classic records. And so she said, "Hey, my brother is auditioning. He's in a band, and they're signed." Because you always kind of be cagey, catch someone's. You don't want to get someone nerding out or something.
Right.
And you'll see why in a minute. But his name's David, and I think he's died since then. I don't know what from, but David was the keyboard player for this band, and they needed a guitar player, so I was playing guitar. And I said, "Yeah, cool. I mean, what do you want me to do?" She said, Do you want to get an audition? I said, yes. All right. Well, let me talk to David and we'll set up a time, and then I can tell you who it is, because you got to learn the songs.
Right.
So I was like, okay, cool. So a couple of days go by, and she had to call me, of course, because I'm upstairs and I got to come downstairs. And for those of you who wonder, this was the record store in Fast Times where Mike Damone goes through the 5-point plan.
Ah.
It's that store. Okay. So Gary Usher, who's a friend of mine there, his father was involved with like the Jan and Dean and the Beach Boys and everybody who was in the surf era. Gary and I'd come downstairs and we'd immediately just break into, "Hey, Rat, you got Ace of Jacket, or go through the 5-point plan." But anyway, so I come in, come downstairs, and Jennifer says, "Okay, well, here it is. It's for Lita Ford." And I was like, "Ooh, okay, cool." Yeah. So I had to learn a couple songs. And I had to go to an audition hall in the Valley studio and be ready. So I already knew who Lita was. So I wasn't like, who? Right. But I knew they had it. They were getting ready to do their next records tour. So I think it was the one with Gotta Let Go on it.
Yeah, Dancing on the Edge.
Yeah, which is great record.
Yes.
So I walk in, and I only remember Tommy T-Bone Cardona was on bass. I don't remember who was playing drums. It could have been Eric Singer for all I know. It could have been Randy Castillo. I don't know.
Right.
But So I go in and there's Lita, and I've realized I've broken out of the circle, right? Because this is now no one in this room is in a local band at all, right? They may have come from them, but they're not in them. So I go in and she's Lita, and she's adorable, and she's 5'2". She's tiny, which I just see pictures of her. I'm 6'2". I'm like, hi, how you doing? Yeah. And she came over and she said, "Oh, look at your hair. It's got red highlights and I love it." And she starts playing with my hair. And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a Me Too moment, but from what angle? This is going to get ugly quick if I let loose the hormones." Right. So I turned into that kid on The Simpsons. I was like, "It's really great." So idiot, but I get through it. Play the songs, and I knew them like dead nuts. I mean, I knew them. And then at the very end, she goes, "Okay, just shred, just play some leads and stuff." And I'm like, "No, this amp is not set up to do that. It's going to sound like crap." She's like, "No, it'll be fine. Go ahead." So I did it, and it came off kind of like plinky, planky, plonky. Just didn't sound good. Right. And it wasn't like, "Okay, thanks. Here's what's your hurry," but it was definitely like, "Okay, cool. Well, thanks, and we'll call you back." Right. So what I learned from it though was after that. I remember talking to David and Jennifer, and then both saying, "Hey, you didn't work out for us, but there's another band that's on Interscope that needs a guitar player and a singer because we like your voice," which I always got. Right. I could sing. So I broke out of the local band thing and I got into the album audition circle. So from then on, except for maybe one or two, I was like, everybody had a deal because they were all talking to each other like, "Okay, this guy wasn't right for us, but he might be right for you." Right. So, which was heinously huge because in a couple months, I think I had, well, that's how Ant got his audition with Ferrari at the time for sure. Somebody, Greg Chason was the one who told him about it. And I didn't know Greg, but after a while I did. Right. I drove Ant to his audition. Right. So from there, it was like, okay, well, I got to know Ferrari a little bit. And I got to know the people at Mates, Bobby, because that was one of the biggest rehearsal studios in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So now I'm in that first level of club. I've broken away from the kids behind me that I've always been stuck with, and trying to break away from them. Not like they're bad guys or anything, but just there's a reason some people stay local. Right. Sure. That way. Yeah. Even in Los Angeles. Yes. But yeah, coming into it that way where you don't know anyone, there's definitely a level. I mean, Lita blew it out of the water. I had whatever cool I had turned into nothing as soon as she started playing with my hair. Right. I was like, okay, thanks. Right. I really want. I haven't met her since. I've not seen her since. So I really want to talk to her and tell her about this because it's a silly story. Yeah. She probably doesn't remember it, because that's the way my memory works, but not hers. But yeah, when you're walking in by yourself, like there were other ones. Where I walked in and Jimmy Waldo had called me. He was the organist and synthesizist keyboard player in Alcatraz. So he got a hold of me. Yeah. And he said, "I got this band and it's, can you come down?" Again, I kind of knew it. Okay, just don't ask. I get there. It's Greg D'Angelo from White Line. It's Jimmy. It's Bob Kulick, who, I knew who Bob was. Oh, yeah. And Graham Bonnet. Oh, wow. Yeah. Right. So now this changes the dynamic. If that had been the lead audition, I'd be going, "Oh my fucking God, I'm just gonna choke." Right. Nope. By this time I was playing bass, so a little different, but I could at least come in with like, all right, I know what I got. I know the songs. Plus the songs are hits. We did All Night Long. We did Since You've Been Gone. We did Love Gun, which was hilarious. Because Bob was in Paul Stanley's solo band. Sure. And Greg is a huge Kiss fan. Right. And we did Wishing Well by Free. Wow. And I think there was one more. So that one I was a little more prepared for because I'd kind of been in and out of that circle that I was talking about. Right. But man, it definitely takes something to walk in and go, okay, I don't know these guys. Do I know the song? Do I know this? Do I know that? Are they going to spring something on me? In other words, like, are they going to start doing lines in front of me or something? And I'm so anti-drug that that would have been okay. I got to go. Talk about awkward moment, but thankfully that never happened to me. Good. But yeah, and you know me by now. I'll never miss a chance to make a joke too. But Bob Kulick, God love him, when he was playing a guitar, like he had ESP and I had ESP. as our main guitar company. And he had a guitar, it was a basic Strat with a pick guard with a skull and crossbones on it.
Nice.
And I said, you should put a mustache on the skull, and he didn't find that funny.
Didn't find that funny.
No, he didn't. Greg D'Angelo howled.
Yeah, I bet.
Greg thought it was fucking hilarious. And Graham Bond just kind of do the typical polite British. I didn't hear that, and I wasn't doing it to be a dick. I was just going. It's kind of obvious.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he didn't find it funny. Oh well, it would be the first time I made a joke and somebody didn't find it funny.
That's funny. I can't get out of my head the thought of Graham Bonnet singing "Love Gun" just is something that I wish I could hear.
God, well, I mean, I was just so pleased to play the other songs,
Yeah.
because he sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of go in there and go, okay, what is this? Is he that kind of singer? Are you going to hear him and just go, yeah, it's him? And I heard it, I went, yeah, it's him.
Yeah,
No
he still sounds like that to this day.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and that's, I mean, he replaced Dio in Rainbow. And could sing that shit.
That's big. That's big shoe. And not only did he fill Dio's shoes, he did it looking the way he does at that time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This slick back hair, and he
the shades.
He kind of looked like the band's accountant.
Yeah. Right.
And he just killed it on stage.
Yep. And he comes in and he always wore a suit, right?
Yep. Yep.
It's like it was so odd to see him on that Michael Schenker cover where he's wearing a leather jacket. We're like, hey,
Where did you get that?
are you okay?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think coming into the audition, and I'll be curious to see what other people say, what it's like, because as soon as you open the door, you got 4 or 5 sets of eyes right on you, if not more. Like if the manager's there, if the producer's there, like the higher up you go, the tougher it gets.
Yeah.
And the scrutiny is immediate.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember walking. I never figured this out until I got into acting, and since I'd already been through the rock and roll meat grinder with that, I didn't care. Like if you walked in and you weren't the look they were after, you're fucked.
You're done.
They don't even hear you.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, okay, cool, fine, thanks, bye. You're like, shit, I came in for that.
Yeah.
But oh well. Again, you learn the process. That was the biggest thing I got. But yeah, because when I was a kid, I didn't have to audition for bands. I already knew all the set. So I knew all the songs in the set. So I just walked in and played.
Right.
Got a little different when you're competing with Paul Gilbert.
Yeah, for sure.
Just saying.
For sure. All right, we've got a couple more first gigs. I don't know if they auditioned for their bands or not, but we'll find out in a later episode. But here's a couple more of our guys telling us about their first gig.
Delana, Rockstar Supernova.
My first paying gig. That's a great question. You mean performing or like a royalty?
Both would be fine.
My first performance gig, I was 15 years old. I joined this old man in South Africa as a traveling duo. And he didn't actually give me my money. He asked me what I needed and he would buy it for me. So turned out he was an alcoholic and would leave me on stage and go and sit at the bar and drink, and I was there by myself operating all these little machines and stuff, singing. But that's where I guess made a living, my first living. And then my first royalty check, and the only one I've ever received in my entire career,
Really?
shocker, was for a soap opera called Passions. They used 2 of my songs in the background.
Okay.
So yeah, I have never received any royalties. I'm still paying back advances from a Dutch deal and another deal here.
Wow.
Endless. But again, it's not about the money. As long as I can do what I do and it's what I love, I'm happy. So.
Stevie Rochelle, Tough.
Well, I know the first show we did with Warrant, we did a pay-to-play thing, but my view on pay-to-play out of the box was never negative. Like, I didn't think it was unfair. I looked at it like, and at that point, Warrant was the creme de la creme of the Los Angeles club scene. So to get on a bill with Warrant was a big deal. And our very first show, we took the second slot, and we pre-sold I want to say it's at least 50 or 70 tickets, and I actually have a contract, the original contract. We had to pay $1,250 to be on that show as a second slot band.
Right.
But the tickets, they sold us, I don't know, maybe it was, 100 tickets at $12.50, and then what happened is we sold them at $15, and we hustled, and we went out there and put hairspray on and schmoozed with girls that had rich parents that said, of course we'll give you $25 to buy a couple tickets from these dirty rock boys in Van Nuys, And so what we did is we went out and hustled. So we sold all those tickets, and probably even made a few bucks. And it was our exchange to say, yeah, we're worthy of a second slot. We'll sell those tickets. We'll give After Dark Promotions or whoever it was the money, which we did. And we killed it. And then we went on to the next show. And within a very short time, we were a headlining band. November of that year, November 6th of '87, we headlined the Whiskey. And I could tell you a few fun facts. One, we got paid $500.
Nice.
The promotional company was Razzmatazz.
Okay.
The president of that company was Janie Luzinski, who is now Miss Eddie Van Halen.
Really?
Mrs. Eddie Van Halen, yeah. Jane was our first ever promoter. I don't even think she was out of high school. I think she was like a senior. She was like 17 years old. She was hanging around the bands and strips, and her and her mom put together this promotion company, and they wanted to book shows. So they contracted us. They paid us $500. We played the Whiskey, and from there on out, we became a headlining band. We did a few other shows in support of the next level bands down the road. Warrant, Kicks, Enough's Enough, Racer X, whoever was around. We took those, some we got paid to be openers because we started to really draw. And there was a couple of pre-sale gigs that we had done in the first couple of years, but it was apparent pretty quick that we were, a value in its own right, so we got paid to play our shows.
Cool.
Slim Jim Phantom, Stray Cats.
My first paying gig, probably like a rec dance or like a school dance in Massapequa, probably.
Jack Russell, Great White.
That was the Troubadour.
Yeah.
And I remember we got paid $7. $7. And we went down to the bar and we bought a Heineken for $7. And we all took a swig of it. And that was it was a big moment for us, It was like, well, we got paid finally, So yeah, that was the first paying gig.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this foray through everybody's first gigs, which I found highly entertaining.
And revelatory, to say the least.
Yeah. It's kind of cool that everybody's got a different story, and yet they're kind of tied in together.
Yeah, and everybody remembers them.
Oh, for sure.
Right? I mean, they're all memorable.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like what gig did you do in the middle of the whatever tour? It's like, where was it? It was in Gary, Indiana. Oh man, I don't know. But you pull out these, you're like, oh, I know exactly what it was and where and when. Yeah,
exactly. And even if it was Winchell's Donuts.
Yeah. Winchell's. I remember
Billy Barty's.
I remember watching Naked Gun in the theaters when it came out, and I was in Columbus, Ohio. And at the end, the police sirens go through the neighborhoods, and it goes through a roller coaster and all that. And at the very end, it pulls into a Winchell's, right?
Right.
And I was the only person in Columbus, Ohio, who laughed at that because they don't have Winchell's there. So everyone's like, I don't get it. I was like, it's a donut place, you see, because cops and donuts and okay, whatever.
Right, crazy stuff. All right, so once again, if you enjoyed this, please give us a like, give us a subscription, subscribe, or if there's a question you want us to ask any of these rock stars, please put it in the comments because we can use all the help we can get.
Yeah. Well, and we've got, the folks who have reached out to us have all been pretty bright, so that helps too.
Yes.
Good suggestions. So.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
We have saved
the greatest first gig story that I have ever heard for laughs.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Obviously this one, I did this interview a long time ago because the late great Steve Riley, you will see him in this video.
Right. Yep.
But it's Phil Lewis talking about his first gig that he ever did. And he had obviously never told the band this.
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
Because their reaction is genuine and it is fantastic.
Yeah, because there's two ways that story could go, which is, yeah, we've heard this 100 fucking times, Phil. Great, and then they're listening, and they just the reaction at the end is worth everything. Love it.
Absolutely. So before we give you Phil Lewis, I'm Jack Trash,
and I'm Chris McLernon.
And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And live your life to 10 plus 1.
And we'll see it. We'll call.
Phil Lewis, LA Guns.
I did a open mic night in London, and it was with a piano player, and we played 2 guitars and piano, and they were both French, and we only knew like 2 or 3 songs, and I think we played Hotel California twice. Well, they started arguing in French in front of everyone, and the manager came over and said, because we were going to get paid 12 quid each a night, which is like, $15, and he said he'd double our pay and give us dinner if we'd stop. That's my first paying gig.
Awesome.
Yeah.